Imagine a government that doesn't just allow adult activity in public, it mandates it by law as a civic duty. Refusal is punishable, privacy is suspicious, and the radical revolutionaries fighting back, they're the ones demanding the right to just not. That is the premise of Nukitashi the Animation, and I want to be very clear. It is genuinely one of the most thoughtful pieces of satire I've encountered, wrapped inside what is, on the surface, the most aggressively unhinged anime broadcast on late-night Japanese television ever. Let's talk about it. Nukitashi takes place on Seiran Island, governed by something formally called the Seiran Island Special Administrative Ordinance, nicknamed simply the Pervert Law. This law enforces a hypersexual public culture as a matter of civic participation. Abstinence, monogamy, privacy, wanting to opt out entirely, all of it carries social and legal consequences. Into this chaos steps the Anti-Copulation Front, a small group of people whose revolutionary demand is almost painfully reasonable: the freedom to choose. Whether that means activity or abstinence, a partner or none, a relationship structure that's private and meaningful, they just want that to be their call. And that's where the themes start cutting deeper than the premise suggests. Because what Nukitashi is really about is coercion dressed up as liberation. The island's law positions itself as progressive, open, freeing, and then uses state power to enforce it on everyone, regardless of consent. The story makes room for heterosexual people, LGBTQ+ people, asexual and demisexual people, people with unconventional preferences, people who just want monogamy, and it frames all of them as equally valid, equally oppressed by a system that claims to celebrate everyone while actually demanding conformity to one specific vision of freedom. That's not liberation. That's just a different kind of cage. There's also this quietly devastating thread running through the story about how the oppressed can become the oppressors. People who suffered under systems of control, once given power, can recreate that same dynamic in a new direction. Nukitashi doesn't flinch from that idea, it sits with it, and that gives the whole story a moral seriousness that you would not expect from something this chaotic. Now, the anime adaptation. It's 11 episodes adapting a visual novel that runs roughly 40 hours. That is, to put it gently, an ambitious compression. The pacing is fast. There are moments where you can feel the story moving through material quickly, where the visual novel would have breathed and let things land. But here's the thing. Good visual novel adaptations are rare, like genuinely rare. And Nukitashi the Animation does justice to its source. The core emotional beats land, the characters feel complete, the philosophical backbone is intact. For 11 episodes working with that much source material, that's an achievement worth acknowledging. And visually, this show looks incredible. Studio Passion, the studio behind the Spice and Wolf remake and High School DxD Hero, brought that same level of craft here, and it shows. The animation is jaw-dropping at times, with a polish and expressiveness that genuinely elevates the material. They didn't just adapt Nukitashi, they clearly made it with passion, fitting given the name. The comedy, too, deserves its own moment. This show is funny in a way that's hard to manufacture. It's not just shock value, though yes, there are scenes so extraordinarily committed to the bit that they allegedly aired as audio only on Japanese broadcast television because the visuals couldn't pass censors. That's a sentence I just said with a straight face. But beyond the chaos, there's a wit here, a consistency. Every episode contains at least one moment that, posted out of context anywhere online, would go viral immediately. It has the energy of a show that knows exactly how insane it is and has decided to be twice as insane on purpose, while somehow never losing the thread of its own story. The characters are a big reason that works. Each of the leads has a distinct presence, a real personality, and an arc that actually goes somewhere. There are surprising turns, there's genuine growth, and there are moments, and I want to be specific about this, where the show pivots from comedy to something genuinely emotional, and it earns that pivot. I was laughing in one scene and tearing up in another. That tonal control is hard to pull off, and Nukitashi manages it. If you've seen Shimoneta, a show about teenage rebels fighting in authoritarian Japan that has banned even mild public indecency, you already understand the energy here. Nukitashi is essentially the mirror image. Where Shimoneta's revolutionaries fight for the right to be raunchy in a sanitized world, Nukitashi's rebels fight for the right to opt out of a world that has made raunchiness compulsory. Same absurd satirical framework, opposite direction, equally committed to its premise. If you watched the anime and it resonated with you, please play the visual novel. It is a masterpiece. That word gets overused, but I mean it here. The depth the anime gestures at, the visual novel fully inhabits. The characters get the room they deserve. The themes land with more weight. The comedy hits harder because you know the people delivering it. I teared up multiple times. It moved me in ways I didn't see coming. Nukitashi is a show about people demanding the most basic thing imaginable, the right to make their own choices about their own lives, wrapped inside one of the most insane premises in the history of the medium. And somehow, underneath all of it, there's a story that's genuinely warm, genuinely funny, and genuinely human. The absurdity is real, but so is the heart, and that combination is rarer than it has any right to be.